So let's talk about how to access classes, and then we'll also see on how to install these softwares. But before we talk about classes, uh, of course, you need to be working on installation on your side. And why am I saying you need to work on installation? At this level, things are about to be different uh, in terms of your aggressiveness in class. And by now, you you should not have the mindset of a you've gone through the quantitative analysis class. By now, you should understand how we do things, and for you, but before you even do, I think on background check on so that you know what are these things that you're going to learn. And we're learning Python, and we will see why Python, and of course why we are here. But first, let's talk about software installation so that you can do it on your end, unless you have already installed it. So if you go to your browser, just write Anaconda download. And once you go to Anaconda individual edition download, that means you'll be able to access the software that we'll be using in class. So we're going to use Anaconda in this case. And Anaconda is software. So it means you also need to have the knowledge of how to do all that. You can't say you're a data scientist or you know Python, and then even in an organization, uh, when it comes to software installation, you can't figure out your way out. That is already a turn-off. So at this level, you are the guy to solve problems, and one of the problems is installing your own softwares. So if you go to Anaconda individual edition, of course, you give it time, and this is a free platform. That means you're not charged to use this software. And if you go to free through, what is it? So I leave that, but for data scientists. So this is maintained by a community of people who work every day to make sure that we enjoy such infrastructure. And if you go to free download, you will have a chance to select on the Windows that you're using. So if your operating system is on Windows, then you'll select from here. If you're using a Macintosh, you also have a chance to do that. And for Linux, the same. I'm going easy right now, so if you have any question, this is the time you talk to me, because I have an expectation on your side, and I would want you to pay attention so that we move fast. Like I said, you'll have to jog your mind. In this case, I'm not going to be easy as the way we were in quantitative analysis. So if you select Windows, I believe most of us we use Windows as an operating system. If you're working with Macintosh and Linux, I believe you already have advanced knowledge on the same. But if you select Windows, then the latest version of the software you will download is 3.1, which is 64 bits. So of course we know operating system can either be 32 bits or 64 bits. But I think by now most computers that are being manufactured are 64 bits. That's why I think we only have option for 64. So even if you are having a 32 bits computer, it's still compatible with 64 bits. So I want you to download the Anaconda. Of course, it will take time, so it's the same process. And once you have the Anaconda downloaded, running that file, it's simple. Go by the default. So every option that you are given, your work will just be to select next. Like I said, that is your part. You need to know how to do that. Unless you feel like you are really struggling with the sim, that is when we can come in and assist you. But I still want you to develop that habit of installing your own softwares. So we said download Anaconda. Once it's downloaded, double click on it and you'll be going by the default, which is just click next and you're good to go. I think that is one of the things I wanted to touch on. Now we'll come back again to software. So let's talk about how to access classes. Nobody's going to send to you links to access this class because you have everything you need. If you go to your email, you will be receiving notification with the class link. So if you want to access class, just go to your Google, and if you even check your calendar right now, your calendar has been updated. That means you have all the session until the end of this class. So that is one platform whereby you can be able to access the links. So Google Calendar, you already have links to access classes. Apart from your Google Calendar, check your X. 30 minutes before class time, you receive a notification, and that notification is the link you're looking forward to access the same class. The third place you can access sessions is through your student portal. So let me just clarify that. Go and check your Google Calendar. You should be having a link there. Apart from your Google Calendar, 30 minutes before class time, you will receive an email notification, and that email notification will have the link to access classes. If you Google download, just go to your browser, write that download. Log into your student portal, and you can log in from, I think, the last page of our site. So by now you should familiarize yourself with the system, and it will be unfortunate if you're waiting until class time is when now you want to interact with this platform. I think that will be on you. So if you go to your profile, you can be able to see your profile, which we said make sure your profile is make sure your profile is completed. That means we have all your details. Make sure your profile is fully updated. But let me just go straight to accessing classes. And all the courses that you have enrolled, you'll be able to access them from your dashboard. So if you just go to your dashboard, see all the courses that are there. So this class is Data Science Python Programming. So if you click on Data Science Python Programming, you should be able to see what the course have reviews, of which I think for reviews you will do that at the end of the class. We have Q&A. That means if you have questions, you don't text me on WhatsApp. Just go to the Q&A section, write the question that you have, what you are writing, and it's easier for you to get response even from your colleagues. On announcement, keep checking on announcements, because if I want to communicate to you, I'll do that through the announcement section. And lastly, we have resources. For resources, right now I want you to download Introduction to Python. Download the file Introduction to Python. And this is the same notes that I'll be using in class. So these, you can access it through the resources section in your student portal. And any document that I'll be using in class, you'll be able to access it from here. So you have resources, we have announcement, we have Q&A, reviews, and also course information. If you have completed all the conversation here, so it's up to you to make sure that everything is managed through your portal. If you go to start learning, I think that is the most important part. Go to start learning, and if you scroll down, we have the course content. So these are the sessions. Like today, I think we're doing Introduction to Programming. Tomorrow, we have basic Python syntax. We'll go to conditional statements. And if you click down, you will see the link to access classes. And these links, you try and access them few minutes before class time. So you don't wait until it's class session is when now you say, I need to get the link. So I think, let me just leave it for you now to make sure you interact with the system, like I said. And if you'll have any question, then you can reach out to the admin. Just take your time on the same. So let's talk about Python, because that's why we're here. And we'll have to set things straight with the course content. Why Python, and what is the goal that you're going to achieve in this training? So one, we're going to build up on what we have already learned. So in our beginners classes, we handled a lot on structured data. And when you talk about structured data, these are information that you get in form of a row and column. So if you download an Excel file today, that is a structured data. But due to changes, and of course right now we're talking about big data, there's a lot of advancement on the amount of data that are produced on a daily basis. And you are the guys who are supposed to make sense out of that data. So where is this data coming from? This data can either again be primary or secondary, but here it depends with who owns the data. But without even talking about who owns the data or primary or secondary, just know that you're working with data that is stored in a database. You might not be the one to interact with the database, and I think we will clarify on the different careers and jobs that are involved in the world of data science. So of course, we have a data engineer who are part of coming up with a database, and data engineers work with database administrators, and the job is to make sure that there's a database whereby all the data are collected. That is not a job of a data scientist. So if today you say you are going to an organization, you should know the scope of your work so that you don't get confused. Your job as a data scientist is to make sense out of the data, and that data, you realize, once the database has been structured, your job is just to select what do you want to access from that database, and you'll be working with the assistance of a data engineer or a database administrator. Once they extract that data, of course, if you join the business intelligence, I think they also learn on integration, whereby you need to know how to connect now Python and a database language like SQL. I think that will be subject to a different class. So for those who are doing business intelligence, the job connects both a data scientist and a data engineer. But for you as a data scientist, we'll be focusing more on predictive analytics and more so diving into algorithms and making sure that you can automate your work, which is basically predicting and coming up with models. So when you say you're having a model, that means you understand the problem of a business, digest it in a way that now you can write a program, and because the computer is there to assist you, and it will only assist you by now automating. So most of the things we're talking about here with big data, machine learning, and so forth is all about automation and making machines to do the work that human beings are supposed to be doing over and over again. So once you figure it out how to do that job, you now tell the machine do this over and over, and that's how efficiency come about. So once you have installed the software, as usual, we said you have to pin your Anaconda in your taskbar. So if you go to your search icon and then Anaconda Navigator is what you should be able to see. So you can either see the Anaconda prompt and Anaconda Navigator. But let's talk about the Navigator part. And how did we get here? So we said from the Anaconda platform, download the 64 bits, run this code, that is you're installing, to use anything. So during the installation process, I've just said your work is to click all the way to the end. Once you have successfully installed Anaconda, now go and search. And I've said just write Anaconda, and you'll be able to see the Anaconda Navigator. Pin to taskbar, which means you'll be able to access your files from somewhere down here. And if you open the Anaconda, this you will interact with. So what is this Anaconda? a central point whereby you can access all the tools that you need. So if you are in the space of data science, these are some of the tools that are used. And data science is wide, but majorly focus more on two languages, R and also Python. So there are only two languages that are prominent in data science. And Python programming languages. But that is not to say that that's the only tool that is used in the world of data science. There's a lot of tools. As you can see, we have DataSpell, we have JupyterLab, we have PowerShell, we have Qt Console, Spider, all the way to PyCharm. But let's focus now on Python. Of course, as we move forward, we will be digesting on your strengths so that you know, are you more inclined with Python or R? And you can even join both of the classes. I think it's good you have an over the same way we were doing SPSS and Stata. I think it was hard for me to tell you which software you're strong with, but I think by now that you have graduated in that class, you know if you are more inclined into the use of Stata or the use of SPSS. And this decision, you're the one who you know yourself. So same case applies with Python. So I can just say you can dive into Python classes, R classes, at least have a clue of both of them. And then as you move forward, you now make sure one of them you're really perfect on it. But even if you're given a code in a different language, you are not going to be left out. So let's introduce Python. And with Python, let's define some terminologies. We're talking about a programming language. People out here, sometimes they call themselves programmers. A programmer will tell you is writing codes. What are codes? So let's start with the understanding code, because that's the beginning of everything. And if you talk about programming, what are codes? Codes are basically instructions. And these instructions are instructions that a software can be able to interpret, and it provides for you some sort of results. I think that's the business we're doing here. You're using the language as a tool of communication between you as the analyst and your machine. And because computers doesn't understand English, you said you're using a language called Python. So codes are basically instruction, and these instructions are instructions that a software or a computer can be able to understand. And of course, if you say computers don't understand English, then it means computers understand language of numbers. And when you talk about numbers, we talk about binary codes, which are ones and zero, period. So basically, computer sees everything as one and zeros, one and zeros. Either it's an image, either it's a text, whatever data types that you're working with. I think that's the communication. So if you have business problem or you have things to do with humanity, you guys are economists, you have done economics, you have done a lot of modeling. If you want now to make sense out of all those economic models, a computer can be able to help you. So all you have to do is convert that model into an instruction, and that instruction is what we refer as a code. The code can either be a command or a comment. Comments are now instructions which the software will be able to read, understand, but you're not expecting to get any results. It's just a way of describing what the code or the command is all about. So to ensure that people also understand what your codes are, you write both commands. Commands are instructions that the software will understand. You're commanding the software to do something for you, so it will be able to return some results out. Those are commands. Comments, we said these are brief information about what that command is all about. So if you look at what I'm presenting at the moment, this is a simple linear regression. I think this is what you're doing with the business intelligence at the moment. And before you write any code, you should be able to describe what that code will do. In that if somebody else come and see your work, they will know what you're doing. Remember we said in the world of data is not a one person's job. So you're interacting with several individuals, and even later we'll see how you work in a collaborative environment whereby you now break down the work into some agile processes. And with agile processes, you do a certain part of the work, somebody else will be working on a different section. But at the end of it all, you need to combine both of your codes so that you proceed to deployment. So in a nutshell, we said we have what you call code, and code comprises both a command and commands. Several codes makes up a program. So when you say both of you or a lot of codes are being generated, you're basically trying to come up with a program. You can say programs comprises of several instructions, and these instructions you can be able to execute them. Call that a program. So you're using Python programming language to write programs, and this program is supposed to do something regardless of what that something is. Individuals who write, so the whole process of coming up with a program, we call it now programming. So if you say a program is a sequence of instructions, and these instructions can either be a command or a comment, then you can say programming is now first understanding a task and writing it down, that task, in a language that the computer can understand. So we say Python is a programming language. So if you have a task and you want to make the software to understand it, we call now that process programming. The individuals who create programs is now a programmer. Several programs makes up a system. So if you go into complexity of a system like even a portal, that is several programs that are being brought together and it makes up a system. I think by now we should have an overview of all these terminologies, but go and download this file and make sure you read through them so that in class you be on the same page with me. Let's talk about Python. Why Python is a big deal. So we said we have two languages. The first language is R, the second one is Python, or Python and R. Those are the main languages for data science. So let's try and be biased and say, okay, why is Python a big deal? Why am I here even teaching Python? Of course, traditionally, I come from a statistics background, and if you had met me 2 years ago, I think I was one of the pro R guys, and nobody would have said anything about R programming, and I go silent. Like I would have defended R as much as possible. But now I'm here, we are talking about Python. So one, I said Python is an open source uh, language. That means nobody owns Python. When you say open source, it means it's free, and that's the big deal. So the reason why people are actually diving in into Python is because if today an organization wants to employ someone, they will not employ just someone with SPSS. So assuming you are competing with your colleagues and somebody else can say, hey, I only know how to use SPSS. If you come in and say you know how to use Python, you have a high chance of securing that position because you are saving on the cost implication. It will be expensive for an organization to pay you and also every month pay for the software that you're using for analysis. So if you can use Python, then it means you've already cut off the cost implication for that organization for subscription on licenses. Two, organization nowadays they don't want to train you. So if you go to a place and say, hey, I only know SPSS, but the world is going to because it's more expensive to work on license programs, and then those license programs you have to activate them over and over, so you have to do the necessary adjustment. We talk about general purpose, and then lastly, I think it's a high level programming language. So when you say general purpose, it means Python is not just uh, a language for data science analysis. This is where now we bring in individuals from the social sciences, finance, economics. Because when you say social sciences, it means of course somebody who's doing economics, finance. Now we have quantitative analysis, and generally we are speaking about the environment of big data. So whether you are just developing websites or you're doing data science, it's just that at the moment is where now everyone is talking about data science because yeah, it's our time. So again, there's more individuals who are coming in from the social science field. But before data science was there, a lot of systems were built on Python programming. So a lot of developers are also using programming. So think of it as a one-stop language that combines both individuals who are from the data field, who are interested in data, and also those who are building systems. Python is also high level, and high level language, it means this is a language that is closer to human logic. It's easier to tell Python that X has an element 5 and you're in the same page as compared to low level language. So for low level language, it's hard to convert it into a human logic concept. I think in terms of high level and low level languages, I think with large language models is where now you will understand more on the same. So Python popularity lies on two main pillars, and the pillars is one, Python is an easy to learn programming language, and it is designed to be highly readable. So we talk about syntax. So this is not the first time you're interacting with what a syntax is. And if you're doing it, how to work with syntax, because syntax is now how you convert that statistical concept that you're doing into a language that can be interpreted with your software. And with syntax, it makes things a bit clear and more or less we say it becomes intuitive. So Python is an easy language to understand for both humans and also the system or the computers, both in terms of semantics and also pragmatism. The second part we said again is apart from easy to learn, you can see that Python is a bit user friendly. It doesn't take a lot of energy to even create objects. And in terms of computational ability, even right now, I've just mentioned about machine learning and large language models. You can easily create them using Python. So in terms of interface, when you say it's user friendly, I think I will only talk about Jupyter interface when you have already installed Anaconda on your side. So for today, I'll stop there, but I'll give you a chance to now make sure between now and tomorrow, same time, you should be having Jupyter installed in your machine so that we see how the interface is. But in a nutshell, this is the Jupyter interface. And as you can see, it's a very simple infrastructure. So it doesn't take forever for you to understand what is happening on what I'm presenting to you. I will stop there unless you have a question. But if you don't have any concern, I think by now you're still on easy ground, so you don't have to sweat it. Just do your part, which is make sure you can access, or you're already okay with the use of the portal and how to access classes. And two, make sure you have Anaconda working in your system. So thank you for your time, and let's meet tomorrow same time.